So, excuse me. Canelo beats Triple G, right? No surprise there. Um, it was the manner in which he beat him, which was going to be interesting. It was a dominant performance. Canelo pretty much won almost every round. Triple G couldn't get his stuff off because Canelo changed the range. So Canelo was fighting Triple G on the outside this fight. So he did something a little bit different. Okay, you gotta excuse me there. I had a phone call. Um, so Canelo basically almost swept the entire fight. Triple G was able to make an adjustment and throw more punches later on in the fight because he basically off of his stick he would try and slide in and smother, but he would also try to throw some combinations before he slid in and smothered. That's basically where he made the adjustment. So Canelo was kind of cramped for space. Canelo was basically fighting everywhere but mid-range, right? He'd throw his combinations and pivot off to the side. So that's what Canelo was doing. And he was inching in and pushing Triple G back. Canelo basically was the aggressor for most of the fight. A lot more tactical. A lot more tactical fight. Um, Canelo had Triple G on the ropes a number of times, which is different. I'd never seen Triple G press Canelo press Triple G to the ropes. Beat on him quite a lot. To the body, onto the head. He mixed it up. Um, Obviously, his left arm, he had an injury in his left arm. That's why he didn't have as much power in his left arm, which is why I guess he didn't press for the stoppage like that. So he has to get his arm sorted. But dominant performance by Canelo. People think Triple G's age had to do with it. No, it was where Canelo was fighting. When you fight on the outside, the other guy can't get to you. So Canelo was fighting Triple G on the outside and sort of circling around him and then pushing him back, which was, again, brilliant stuff. So that way, it was better Canelo close the distance off a jab coming in or feint, or he'll feint the jab and come with the left hook to get to the inside. Then he could throw his combinations and pivot off to the side. This is what he's basically doing. Triple G, when he realized that, he tried to move in off his jab and throw combinations and smother. So he would clinch up Canelo and then probably throw shots on the inside. So that's how they kind of made their adjustments to the fight. It's understandable Canelo didn't stop Triple G. I mean, he really basically had one hand. He had his right hand. So he was landing a lot of lead rights, like right counters, uppercuts, rights to the spleen, lead rights to the head, counter rights to the head. He didn't really too much have his left hand. Even though he was leading with left hooks and stuff, he didn't have as much power in the left hand. If he had the left hand, probably he'd stop him. When he poured it on Triple G poured it on. Yeah, Triple G was more active. The most effective thing Triple G had was his jab again. He couldn't really land power shots on Canelo. Even when he picked up the pace, Canelo was blocking most of his shots, getting out of the way of most of his shots. So he didn't really do much damage to Canelo. Canelo more did damage to him. But, you know, GGG stepped up in weight. He went up to 168. Compliments to him finally stepping up and going up in weight. He was fighting for undisputed, so this is the stakes for him. Canelo kind of took away his offense because Canelo kept him at a distance. Canelo's jab was pretty good in this fight as well. He had a better jab than he did against Dimitri Bivol. Now, do I think off of this performance he would beat Dimitri Bivol? Absolutely not. Even though he was fresh on his feet for most of the fight, this fight was not a high-paced fight. Triple G was supposed to, according to Jonathan Banks, throw a lot of punches. The problem was he wasn't in range to throw punches for most of the fight because Canelo kept it on the outside. And so because of that, Triple G had to close distance to get there, and Canelo would counter him. And, Canelo has power. So Triple G ended up for most of the fight fighting off the back foot. Sometimes the fight was in the center of the ring, but sometimes Canelo would close in on Triple G and land punches on him. Triple G tried to wheel off the ropes as much as he could, or clinch or smother, and turn Canelo to make sure that he didn't get drilled in the corners, which was very smart of him again. Triple G boxed Canelo pretty much for most of the fight. He's a decent boxer, but he was still taking a lot of punishment. Canelo never looked like he wanted to press the action to stop Triple G. He just wanted to box him, and he pretty much did that. He really put full force and full power into his right hand. His left hand, you could see he was holding back a bit. Even though he was landing the shots, he landed lovely liver shots and body shots and stuff, but he wasn't really putting a lot of effort into it like he usually does. Understandable. But it's a good fight. I really wanted Canelo to stop Triple G. I think just look at what I was saying, the difference in levels. Canelo's on a whole other level to Triple G. Which is why the fight went the way it went. Don't get me wrong, Triple G's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. But and he can box. But I just think Canelo's on a whole other level to Triple G, and it's understandable. The competition Canelo's faced is just on another level. We respected Canelo versus David Benavidez. I think we all wanted to see that fight. I want to see Canelo versus David Benavidez. I was just listening to Joe Habib, thinking that Gilberto Ramirez will beat Dimitri Bivol. All right, put him in there. He's gonna get beat up. Bivol's gonna beat him. Ramirez is a good fighter. He's pretty intelligent. Not a better fighter than Canelo. Doesn't have as many weapons as Canelo. He has size, but size is not everything. Bivol beats guys bigger than him. That's nothing new. I don't see him beating Bivol. So I don't see Gilberto Ramirez is a good fighter though, but he'll lose to Bivol if he fights him. Okay. Bivol's a special fighter, and y'all are going to see this as he gets better and better competition, bigger and bigger names. You're going to realize how good he is. He just still hasn't gotten his opportunity. A lot of people doubt him. He's a special fighter. His timing is incredible. He's a little sloppy, but his timing's incredible. Like I tried to tell y'all, Golovkin ain't Bivol. You can't devise a strategy or game plan. And I would say it again. David Benavidez ain't Bivol. Canelo will beat. I believe Canelo will beat David Benavidez. I'm just letting you know. Canelo wants legacy and resume, but I believe David Benavidez has put himself in a position where he should get a shot at Canelo. Canelo wants an immediate rematch with Dimitri Bivol. Okay, now Bivol has fought names. right? Jean Pascal, uh, Joe Smith Jr., former world champion. Um, Sullivan Barrera. He's fought names in this division. Okay, he's fought guys. Um, David Benavidez has fought former world champ. What's his name? Anthony Durrell. Right, he fought Anthony Durrell, beat him. Um, who else did he fight? Nobody else really. That's the only world champion I think. It's two world champions he beat. Former world champion. I think he beat Durrell to win the title the second time, something like that. So I think that's all he got. But let me say this: David Benavidez, I love the guy because he don't duck no challenge. He ain't ducking. He want the smoke. So I would love for Canelo to indulge him and say, "You want the smoke? Let me give you the smoke." But Canelo has one more contract, one more fight with DAZN, and he wants it to be Dimitri Bivol. So that's why Canelo he's trying to finish off his contract with DAZN, and then hopefully he comes back across and faces David Benavidez. Let me say something about Canelo, because a lot of y'all really disrespect the guy, and that's why the guy feel all kinds of how about the press and the media. Okay, he feel a how about y'all, and he's kind of bitter and he's kind of angry because that PED scandal that happened. He don't like that, and he don't like that his name be carried in the mud and stuff. And he's really a dude that work hard. He and Eddie Reynoso, you know. So he kind of mad with everybody, you know. So if he has an attitude, I understand. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Canelo versus Bivol is a fight that Canelo has to work on his footwork still. Now, mind you, he was very fresh against the Triple G fight. His feet looked light. He was moving in and out very nicely, and he kept the energy and he kept the pace. He controlled the pace of the fight for most of the fight. All right, showing he just matured at a whole other level. He's controlling Triple G. Triple G is 40 years old, however, so we have to bear that in mind as well. Coming up in weight. But having said all of that, you know, um, he looked better than I've seen him in a while in terms of facing Triple G. That's the best performance I've seen of him against Triple G. Spotless. He almost didn't get touched for most of the fight, so he got the defense on, and at the same time, he was dishing out the punishment, so that the fight was one-sided from almost round one all the way to round 12. He basically whitewashed Triple G. He did a aggressive James Toney Floyd Mayweather fight. That's what he did because his defense was on point. You know, he got popped once or twice with the jab, but most of the time he blocking the jab, blocking the power shots, you know, picking off shots and picking off and countering. You know what I'm saying? So he looked really good in terms of his boxing. He was boxing Triple G. And he had a bad hand, right? So he's kind of one-handed. So that was very impressive. But Triple G was 40 years old, right? People are going to say that over and over. Now, it wasn't as action-packed as the first two because it was basically one-way traffic for like 9 rounds, right? Like 9 out of the 12 rounds was one-way traffic. Triple G picked it up, probably took round 9, round 10, probably took round 11. I did not give Triple G round 1. I thought Canelo established what the fight would be from round 1 onwards. So I gave Canelo rounds 1 all the way up to 8. He took the first 8 rounds. Triple G got 9, 10, 11 because he picked it up. Not necessarily that he was accurate, but he was more active. He had a better performance, pushed Canelo back. You know, even though he's hitting mostly arms and gloves, he was the more active one. Canelo wasn't doing nothing, you know, in those rounds too much because Canelo was trying to make the adjustment. He was like, Triple G decided, no, I'm going to close range. You want to go? I'm going to close range off my jab, right? So he started popping jabs a lot. And so I thought Triple G took rounds 9, 10, and 11. I thought Canelo came back in round 12 and took round 12. He adjusted to what Triple G was doing, and he adjusted his distance and range, and he adjusted for the smothering, you know. So I thought that Canelo, he swept 9 out of the 12 rounds. Okay, Triple G did well to come back. You know, he made an adjustment, which is what you have to do in boxing. You know what I'm saying? So he made an adjustment to get back to range. He get punished for it, but he would follow through. He not just throwing one punch. He threw 2, 3, 4, 5 punches. Once something got to land. You know what I'm saying? So the thing that Jonathan Banks wanted him to do from round one, he ended up doing in round two. He couldn't do it in round one because the distance, the distance. Canelo established range. Canelo popped his jab, was popping the jab up and down to keep range. Even though Canelo has a shorter arm than Triple G, he'd step in off the jab off an angle, you see? And that kept Triple G back. And then he was pushing Triple G back, so Triple G couldn't even close distance. He couldn't close distance like he wanted to, all right? So Canelo was kind of dictating the fight. And Triple G made an adjustment. He realized what was happening, and he would try to um, close the distance off his jab. Once his jab hit Canelo, he would come in off the jab immediately with a second jab, and then from that he would slide right in and then do his thing, try and throw his punches. So he kind of have Canelo occupied and defensive. Blind with the jab, come with another jab. So he was starting to and he was throwing combinations behind his jab. So that's what helped him to close the distance against Canelo, which was very smart. So again, he's a smart fighter. Don't get me wrong. Triple G Triple G is a very competent, very all-round skilled boxer. The problem with Triple G is his his strength of being tough is his weakness. In the sense that, and that's why Abel Sanchez style is really the winning style for Triple G. When he's coming forward and his opponent, he has his opponent on the defense, and his opponent doesn't know how to adjust or alter distance, unlike Canelo, who knows how to adjust and alter distance. He's most effective. Okay? So that's when Triple G shines at his best, not when he's fighting going backwards. Even though he did a great job with David Lemieux wasn't a boxer. If you're dealing with a boxer and a boxer's pushing you back, he has the advantage. But in this case, like with Danny Jacobs or with Derevyanchenko pushing him back, right? But and Canelo. So, but if there's somebody else who's not really a boxer, not skilled like that, then what happens with Triple G is he can maneuver and still go backwards and use his jab and establish distance and range how he wants to, and then he can mount his attack. So, you know, again, you can't say nothing about Canelo. You can't say nothing about the dude. He performed well. I was expecting, though, an explosive knockout. I was thinking somewhere around round 7 that Canelo would knock him out, break him down, and knock him out. But I heard he didn't have his left hand, really. His left hand was weak. Maybe a rotator cuff injury, whatever it is. So, kudos to Canelo. And his left hand is like his major weapon. His major weapon is his left hook, right? And he still threw it. His feet were good. His feet were fresh throughout the fight. That's something I looked at. Foot cardio. See, everything goes down to the foot cardio. Why Canelo was on top of Triple G for so long with so many, and even though Triple G made a run, Canelo was still fresh at him, was because of his foot cardio. And Canelo needs to keep working on that. You want to beat Bivol, you got to stay up with that guy. You got to keep up with him. You have to keep up with his energy and his activity. Even if you're picking shots and you're doing your pot shotting, you got to keep up with that guy with your feet. And that's the key to Canelo beating Dimitri Bivol. He has to have active feet. He has a very good foot cardio to be able to keep up with Bivol. He was not able to keep up with Bivol that first fight at all. Now Bivol was really crashing it coming down the stretch. And Bivol dictated that fight from the get-go, right? Because of his footwork and his jab and how he manipulated distance. And he's very good at doing that. That's what he does. Canelo's going to have to figure out how to keep up with him. I think Canelo has more tools than Bivol does. But what tools Bivol does have, he uses them extremely well. Extremely well. Okay? So, Canelo, I love how he was bobbing and weaving, dipping, slipping, and sliding against Gennady Golovkin to close range as well to get his shots in. That's beautiful. He stopped doing it coming down the stretch because he was probably getting a little bit of fatigue, or maybe his arm was hurting him more. But that's what he needs to do for 12 rounds. He needs to be sharp for 12 rounds. Canelo is sharper than Bivol, but they're about the same speed. So for Canelo to beat Bivol, he has to continue to do what he's doing, whatever training and regimen he's doing. He needs to do more of that for his feet. Because he was light on his feet in this fight. He wasn't heavy on his feet in this fight. And he didn't fade, which is great. So the pace of the fight, though, favored him. I've seen him do many other fights, and that kind of pace is his pace. You up the pace and you're going much faster, and now he has some problems and he get fatigued and tired. But for the most part, you could see he and Eddie Reynoso worked on certain things, um, and they made the fight easy. You know, they made it easy. They didn't have to do too much. It's kind of like Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. This is what you're seeing. The little tricks he was using, things that Devin Haney was using as well. But Devin Haney has a lot more feints and a lot more movement. But he basically put the George Kambosos. And the weird thing about it is Triple G has a longer reach and a great jab, and Canelo was still able to, because Triple G don't have the foot speed. He don't have the foot speed. He don't have that foot dexterity. You know, he's more of a flat-footed fighter, and because of that, that's why Canelo was able to do what he did against him. Now, against a Bevo, he ain't gonna be able to do that so easily. You know, so there's those things you gotta consider. With regards to David Benavidez versus Canelo, that's a good fight. That's a good fight. I would love to see it. I know who would win. I know who would win. I know Canelo would win that fight. You know, David Benavidez would get a lot of experience. Um, and, and David will get tagged up. He'll get tagged up. But again, Canelo's so good that he don't like with Triple G. He didn't have to land too many shots on Triple G. He didn't even have to stop Triple G. He made the fight easy, and he could make that fight easy with David Benavidez if he wanted to. Because David Benavidez, he's younger than Triple G. You know, David Benavidez, he really, he appreciates Triple G a lot. But I'm telling you, he don't got what it takes to beat a Canelo. He need to have that footwork. He improved. By the way, David Benavidez improved on his. I gotta say this. I have a respect for David Benavidez because he actually improved on his inside game and his mid-range game. He's got better inside game and a mid-range game, right? Because he's been fighting all these guys that help him prepare him for that. So all those fights he's been having helped him with his inside game and mid-range game. I still think if David Benavidez faces my boy, what's my boy's name? He was actually on he was on the Mayweather channel. Lonnie B. If he faces Lonnie B, I think Lonnie B's Lonnie B's is going to be a stiff challenge for him. Okay, but at the end of the day, David Benavidez versus Lonnie B, that's a good fight. That's a good fight, and he's gonna learn a lot from that fight. He might even stop Lonnie B. He might get the victory over him. But that would help him with a Canelo fight because I'm telling you, man, Canelo ain't easy. David Benavidez would throw combination after combination, hit nothing but air. Nothing but air against a Canelo. Okay? Telling you. And David Benavidez is a great fighter. And Canelo will be tagging him up with pinpoint accurate shots. Canelo will find out his defense. First, Canelo will be looking at his range. And again, Canelo has certain skills and techniques to get past a guy's long arms. It's not just long arms. You have to have long arms and you have to have quick feet. You have to have nimble feet to change those angles and change the movement. And David Benavidez don't got that. He's explosive. He shuffles back okay. But he's like Triple G. He got heavy feet. And I can pick you at different angles. I can come at you at different angles. I can change up the angle approach. And then I can start dipping past you and getting into you. I can dissect you and start tagging you up on different angles. And then what you going to do? You saw what Canelo did to Triple G. He was changing up the angle all the time. Coming in off an angle. You saw Canelo push back guys like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Callum Smith, big tall guy. Couldn't. Look, the same approach that Canelo did against Callum Smith. The same approach he did against Billy Joe Saunders. The same approach he did against Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant was much more nuanced. Okay, Caleb Plant he's slick as hell. But the same thing he did against Caleb Plant is what he did against Triple G. Partly. That's why Triple G y'all wondering why Triple G not throwing no offense. Well, it's the angle and it's the distance he's covering him at. Can't throw nothing back. You can't counterpunch him. Too far away. By the time you turn to really throw something, he's at a different angle, or he's he's far away again. All right. So that's what Canelo. Canelo's very tricky guy, very skilled guy, very skilled fighter. Anybody saying he's average and all these things, I hear Dante and all these guys talking average and they're trying to bad talk Canelo. Listen, man, unless you got that skill set, if you can't appreciate what this dude be doing, please shut up. All right. Floyd Mayweather could say what he wants about Canelo, and Floyd sometimes be hating on Canelo, but Floyd would say what he wanted to say about Canelo, but he knows. He knows. Floyd knows what Canelo can do. Uh, I'm gonna catch back to you guys later. I'm what you need. I'm out. Hello.